Hello. This poster is the conflict of interest influence on systematic reviews of chronic pain management with opioids. This is just our poster as a whole. It can be made available online. And just jumping right into it, previous research suggests that industry bias in the form of conflict of interest and study industry sponsorship may influence the direction of reported results and conclusions of medical research. We know that chronic pain estimates up over $500 billion annually, and that opioids have been considered one of the most effective long-term solutions for long-term pain. This is backed by the systematic reviews. If the financial conflicts of interest exist in the literature, the accuracy of reported therapeutics may be lower than expected. So our objectives here were to determine the prevalence of the conflict of interests, both when they were disclosed and undisclosed among systematic review authors, especially in regards to the treatment of chronic pain with prescription opioids, and to determine the presence of one or more authors with a conflict of interest influenced the favorability, the systematic review, or conclusions. Some secondary objectives we sought to determine whether a correlation existed between the conflict of interest in systematic reviews and the risk of bias, and whether study sponsorship influenced reported results and conclusions. We used Medline and Embase, and we searched relevant articles to this very specific topic. You'll see that our sample size is pretty small after we've narrowed it down to everything. The study sponsorship was determined using the funding statements, things they told us, things they didn't tell us, and the things they didn't tell us, we used Open Payments Database, dollars for profs, Google Patents, USPTO, and other articles where they may have disclosed something and they had other kinds of disclosures. So this is a Prisma Flow diagram. You can see how we screened articles. We started with a little over 1,300, and some of them weren't related to opioids, a lot of duplicates, acute pain, chronic pain, but with cancer. That was not something we wanted to look at. Animal studies, not in English, some were withdrawn, and some were just protocols. And then after a second screening, we found a lot of the same stuff. So we ended up with 8. And this was just how we kind of searched for their undisclosed. So we would go down this kind of algorithm. We'd go to open payments and the dollars for professors, USPTO, and so on until we found or didn't find conflict of interest statements or things they might not have disclosed otherwise. So in our results, in systematic reviews by 83 authors, 19 were found to have a conflict of interest. Of the majority, had at least one disclosed conflict of interest. Despite nearly 1/4 of authors having a conflict of interest, we found no association between the presence of a conflict of interest and the favorability of results or conclusions. And this was based upon Fisher's exact, which is best used with small sample sizes. And yeah, nothing super significant, but you can see the kind of areas we were looking at. We had our industry sponsor studies, non-industry, no funding received, no statement, and just whether how they reported favored the treatments or placebos, and in several different areas. And all of them were low risk, so we couldn't really assess low risk to high risk. Among our conflict of interests, though, still insignificant, but you can see in some places it was close. For these conflict of interest favored the treatment, and the no conflict of interest favored the placebo. But it's really insignificant because there were no good numbers there. But perhaps a larger sample size, we'd see something different, but there is no larger sample size because those are the relevant articles. So in conclusion, we found that most conflict of interests are common, especially in this area, and often undisclosed among authors who had reviews investigating opioid analgesics for the management of chronic non-cancer pain. However, these author-industry relationships did not appear to influence the favorability results and conclusions. That's the end of this intro. If you have any questions, you can contact me at this email address or Michael Anderson at the same email address. Thank you.